Folks, welcome back. Let's start it out with this.
Remember I said there is no such thing as isms, no racism, no sexism, no Islamophobia-ism, no be dad-ism, no Semitism. There's either good or evil, right versus wrong. Well, my producer introduced something to me that I wasn't aware of. Here's an old cartoon from 1948. I wasn't even born yet. And was fighting against isms. The cartoon was produced by Harding College, and it describes the damage of falling for Islam. It's 1 minute, but you're gonna love it. It's isms. Watch this.
Hurry, step right up, folks. Here's the answer to your problems. Dr. Utopia's sensational new discovery, ism. Ism will cure any ailment of the body politic. It's terrific. It's tremendous. Once you swallow the contents of this bottle, you'll have the bountiful benefit of higher wages, shorter hours, and security. And now then, because we are introducing this amazing item for the first time in this country, it isn't going to cost you 1 cent. All you have to do is sign this little scrap of paper, and you get your bottle absolutely free.
I hereby turn over to ISM Incorporated everything I have, including my freedom and the freedom of my children and my children's children, in return for which said ISM promises to take care of me forever.
Isn't that amazing? That was in 1948. I told y'all ain't no such thing as isms. Isn't that amazing?
Certainly is, Jesse. Look, today we're going to bring out some isms, of course, because they come from a certain section of society, and there's a couple of videos I want to get into about how the isms came about, what they're about, where they're from, that kind of thing. So, let me bring up a video I was listening to. Well, it's actually a radio show from, let me think. Let's bring it up here. It's actually a radio show from 2006. And it's quite informative, I must say. So here we go. We'll open her up and get her rocking.
Now, the only independent news talk network in the Middle East, Israel National Radio, and IsraelNationalRadio.com present the Tamar Yonah Show. Here's Tamar Yonah.
This has just recently
and
been reposted
this Tuesday, June 20th, 2006, or
to
the 24th of
the internet
Sivan,
several
5766 on the
times.
Hebrew calendar. Hi, everybody, and hello to all of our listeners down in southern Florida. The Tamar Yonah Show is also syndicated on www.kolalev.com. You can join us in our virtual studio if you're listening to this show live. If it's between 7 and 8 a.m. Holy Time in Israel, or if it's between midnight and 1 a.m. Eastern Time, New York Time, that means that the show is broadcasting live. You can join us in our virtual studio. Go to our webpage at Israel National Radio.
Actual issues. So
if you're listening to this show live, if it's between 7 and 8 a.m. Holy Time in Israel, or if it's between midnight and 1 a.m. Eastern Time, New York.
Might just before this.
In Florida, the Tamar Yonah Show is also syndicated on www.kolalev.com. You can join us in our Hebrew calendar.
There it is.
Or the 24th of Sivan, 5766 on the Hebrew calendar. Hi, everybody. To the show this Tuesday, June 20th, 2006, or the 24th.
June 20th, 2006.
Of Sivan 5766 on the Hebrew
5766
calendar. Hi, everybody, and hello to all of our listeners down in southern Florida. The Tamar Yona Show is also syndicated on www.kolhalev.com. You can join us in our virtual studio if you're listening to this show live. If it's between 7 and 8 a.m. Holy Time in Israel, or if it's between midnight and 1 a.m. Eastern Time, New York Time, that means that the show is broadcasting live, and you can join us in our virtual studio. Go to our webpage at IsraelNationalRadio.com. Go to the upper left-hand corner where you'll see a blue rectangle that says Enter Virtual Studio. Just click there and follow the instructions and join us. Right now, let's see who we have in our virtual studio. We have people from
still alive.
Ohio and
sure
Florida and
he
Los
is,
Angeles and the Netherlands, Holland. Hi there. Boca Raton, Florida, Kentucky, Montreal, Texas, New York.
I'm not sure if he is alive.
Arizona, Indiana, Michigan, Alabama.
But you can see here. Let me move me out of the way here. Okay. So it shows him with the Supreme Court of America in 1973. Tons of rabbis. 13-member Supreme Court rabbis, Newton, Mass. So this guy was on the Supreme Court, and in this interview he's going to talk about another guy who's on the Supreme Court. So I'm going to look up, while this is carrying on, I will look up if this guy is still alive. I'm not sure about that.
Lewis in Taiwan. Wow, Southeast Asia, they're listening to us. Calgary, Palm Springs, California, Mars, that's even further. Canton, Ohio, Winnipeg, Canada, and Washington, the other D.C. The other D.C. because I always say we are broadcasting here out of Beth El, the house of God, just north of Jerusalem, D.C. Jerusalem, David's capital. Not anybody else's capital. It was a Jewish capital. And I'd like to welcome you all to the show. A very, 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 very special guest today in the studio with me, not just on the phone.
9/11, 2013.
I know that he's got a lot of groupies. People worship this guy, and he really merits it. I have joining me today Dr. and Rabbi Marvin Antelman. Welcome to the show, Rabbi.
Thank you very much for having me here.
All right, so for anyone who's not familiar with this man, he is a chemist, an inventor, an author, a rabbi. He's made great strides in science. He's authored 2 encyclopedic works. I've never met anyone who's written an encyclopedia before, so you know we're speaking with somebody very smart. The titles, let's see if I can even get it out of my mouth. The Encyclopedia of Chemical Electrode Potentials and the Encyclopedia of Thermoplastic Materials. Rabbi Antelman has a long list of inventions under his belt as well, and you can check them out at the U.S. Patent Office. And basically, he's a genius, and he's a very famous author as well for those who are trying to find out
very
what is
interesting
the world. Let me just tell you a little bit about
so he's got the Illuminati pyramid here,
Rabbi Antelman's book, which is called To Eliminate the Opiate, Volume 1 and 2.
8 secret societies
for you. That
with
was written by Billy Jack Dial, a very famous B'nai Noach leader.
How they work, and he has a volume 2,
where's
too.
My second piece of paper? Here it is. He says,
look at this.
Quote, these books happen to be...
So they got the Jacobins, the Mendelssohns, the Frankists. That's the ones I was talking about the other day.
One of the most powerful resource of truth of all
the Reform movement.
Here,
so that's
Rabbi Marvin Antelman confronts the evil empire.
Now check this out. This is about how the Illuminati specifically created all these secret societies. Now, when we talk about secret societies, we talk about different obviously there's not one, there's several of them. He's going to go into certain ones here, but you'll notice that they sort of line up with some things today. People talk about Freemasons and Shriners and text in the chat if you can think any that you know, and we'll see if we can find them on this list. But
with the revelation
Reform movement is the entire Reform Church of the USA. So you'll notice all these things come from Judaism. And we'll find some surprising things on this list. Let's keep going.
Defies all the conspiracy theories.
She got the
and
ones in
transforms
Asia.
Those theories into reality. These books will leave the reader
Schofield,
shocked and awed
Schonfeld.
as the cloak of secrecy is stripped off of the organizations and individuals who actively sought to bring harm to the Torah of God and its followers. So we're going to find out today, who are these people behind the scenes who are possibly infiltrating our organizations, the Jewish people, our media, our education, all sorts of spheres of life. Who are these people?
Now look where the word tolerant came from. The tolerance patent. 1782. Oriental Printing Office. Biblical Destruction Group. Okay.
Well, who can we trust, and where do you fit in this devious agenda
Jewish
for control
people
in the world? And again, if you'd like to
now,
find out more about Rabbi Anselman's books to eliminate the opiate, Volume 1 and Volume 2, you can go to Billy Jack Dial's website, and let me see if I can just find that address again. It is www.b'nai-noach.com. Let me spell that for you. It's B-N like in November, A-I-N like in November, O-A-C-H.com. I'll try to put that link up on the website as well, so you can just click there and find out where to order Dr. and Rabbi Anselman's books. So, Rabbi Anselman, you were telling me before we started the show that this happens to be the time of the 250-year anniversary of the Council of Four Lands. In Hebrew, you say that as?
Actually, it's the 250th anniversary of a special cherem, which was an excommunication in the ban that they issued. And it's very, very pertinent to us today. And I'll try to bring the connection. First of all, let me say this. There are a lot of conspiracy theories out there. I'm not interested in theories. I'm interested in facts. So the scholarship over the years that I've utilized are sources that are impeccable. For example, Anthony Sutton, professor at Stanford University, wrote 2 books. He wrote more than 2 books, but 2 books which are relevant to what I'm going to speak about. One of his books was Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution, and Wall Street and the Rise of Hitler. There he goes through a lot of trouble to document the connection between the leaders of the Council on Foreign Relations, which is an acronym also for Carnegie, Ford, and Rockefeller, who provided the main funding for this.
Interesting.
Now you hear all these names? Carnegie, Rockefeller, and they're saying Wall Street was both tied to, this guy. What? And these guys. So the biggest 2 killers in the 20th century. Carry on.
And he's a professor with impeccable credentials. And then there is the late Professor Carroll Quigley, who was professor of political science at Georgetown University. Matter of fact, he was even quoted when Clinton became president in his inaugural address. He quoted Quigley as one of his people that he had studied under. So Quigley was very well known. The CFR loved him, and he decided that he would do a very nice thing. He would reciprocate the love and put out a book called Tragedy and Hope. But when it came out and it spoke so much about the CFR activities that they didn't want people to know about, they turned against him. And he himself then reassessed his position with them and wrote a book called The Anglo-American Establishment, where he claimed that a handful of people were running the world. And those 2 books are impeccable as source material, but there's other impeccable source material, and that is the scholarly works that were put out by professors at Hebrew University to deal with what we call the Sabbatean conspiracy, which I'll go to in one moment in our history. Let me preface those remarks by saying that, as every Jew well knows, right out of the Haggadah, and every generation, they're out to destroy us, and every generation has its killers and persecutors of the Jews. In the 17th century, it was Khmelnytsky who headed the Cossacks, who was out to destroy Jews and did terrible atrocities, killing hundreds of thousands of Jews in Poland. The atrocities were terrible, and to commemorate this terrible series of events, the Jews kept a fast day, the 20th day of Sivan, to commemorate this, which was this past Friday, commemorates the Khmelnytsky massacres. Today, it's no longer an active fast day, but it was observed for a few hundred years. In any event, on the 20th day of Sivan every year, the Vad Arboretzot, which is the Council for Lands, which is the biggest tribunal of its kind at that time, met once a year on this date and took up questions of Jewish law and other things.
So these were very big rabbis, leaders of the community, who were on this Council of the Four Lands.
The Council of Four Lands was backed up by no less than the King of Poland. It began in 1520 and lasted till 1764. It consisted of 30 rabbis, 15 of who were lay leaders and were rabbis, and the others were not lay leaders, they were full-time rabbis. They were...
So let's go over this piece of paper here from his, not sure it's his first book, but the first volume of how he traces how this creation of secret societies comes about and their historical timeline, basically. So it's got Jacob Frank, obviously Frankism, I was mentioning the other day, to whom sin was holy. So he wanted to bring back the Messiah, the Mashiach, by basically in the Torah, or the Bible, the first 5 books of the Bible, what they say is God only returns to earth when everyone is so bad he must come here and destroy it. This is their goal. And then you got the Eisenweishaus, the Jesuits, that were founded pretty much just after this guy died, Jacob Frank. And he creates the Illuminati. They worked hand in hand to basically infiltrate and we'll see. I don't want to give it away. There's a connection between the Jacobins, the French Revolution, the Frankists, the Illuminati, Karl Marx. They call him an anti-Semite. You know, he's a Jewish guy. A World Without Jews. Anyone ever hear of this book? I haven't. And I'm 50-something. 18th century roots of the women's liberation movement. Feminism. How the Illuminati founded artificial Judaism. What's artificial Judaism? Sounds like Revelations 2:9 and 3:9 to me. Why the Frankists provided the leadership for the reform and conservative movements. So they were a right-wing group. Reform, conservative. Well, that's how they started. Switched to the other side eventually. This is why people don't understand history, is because they don't comprehend a timeline. Things happen in a timeline. Just because 500 years ago, 400, whatever, 10 days ago, doesn't really matter how long ago it was. If it started as a right-wing organization, tried to root itself, wasn't allowed, boom, goes to the left. Doesn't matter. Still a secret society. Doesn't matter how they infiltrate. They'll do whatever the hell they want. And this is something that they were mentioning 20 years ago. So they had a back door into saying, You know, everyone's anti-Semitic and, against the Jews. Well, it's not the Jews. Everyone knows in this world there's good and there's evil. These guys in the secret society were evil, but they came from Judaism, so they can use the anti-Semitic route as a cover. And that's what people don't understand. It's not that people hate Jews or hate... this hate speech stuff is going to cover evil. It's going to wrap the whole Trojan horse and everyone under it. Everyone knows that the Catholic priests did the same damn thing. They were not Catholic priests. Everyone just said, well, it's Catholic priests. No, it was these guys. We're going to find that out. And how Judaism was labeled Orthodox in order to destroy it. Now, that's kind of weird, isn't it? How the Lubavitch, does that sound familiar? Foiled a mass assimilation conspiracy in Russia. Ooh, that sounds like a book we were just talking about on the Bolsheviks. Now, this is why some people do lump all Jewish people into one category, because all of this stuff originates from Judaism. All of it. And I played the video at the beginning. All the isms are bad. Judaism. Now, the fact that Catholics have good and bad people, Protestants have good and bad people, Muslims have good and bad people, Jews have good and bad people. But all these secret societies didn't come from all of those. They infiltrated them, and that's what this guy's going to talk about. What else we got here? The plot to destroy the Torah through biblical criticism. Whoa, not like people aren't arguing about that nowadays. Why today's Reformed clerics gravitate to communism? So the conservatives gravitate to communism. Communist causes and support black anti-Semitic groups. What? Did that turn into BLM? Or BLM was obviously a facade. But that's what that's talking about. This is in 2006, mind you. And the guy wrote the book before that. In 1974, he wrote this book. And all this stuff here comes true. Why the wealthy finance communist revolutions? Bolsheviks. Who are the wealthy? Judaism. Jesuits. Illuminati. Jacobins. French Revolution types. Lubavitch. They're all here on the list. Now, why did they do it? I don't know if he's going to tell us, but it's obviously in this book. Why black civic leader Elma Lewis sued the author for $500,000 in the lost. Never heard of this lady. Never seen a video on it, ever. I don't know if he's going to bring it up. Maybe we'll do that later. I'll do some research into that thing. The true source for the Frankenstein monster. Whoa, didn't that movie just come out like a month ago? Why are things lining up? The significance of mystical designs on the American dollar bill. Well, everyone knew that. People are like, when did you get into this conspiracy thing? Yada, 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 yada. Oh, I got in 2019. Oh, around COVID, everyone jumped in. Okay. I've been around this stuff since the early 90s. I've been going through conspiracy theories. So, if you want to know about the history of that, and that's what this is about, the systematic changes and how people switch sides to infiltrate. Some people start as left wing, doesn't work for them, move to the right, doesn't work for them. It's been 10 years, move back to the left. And that's why I see politicians doing it. They're not politicians, they're these guys. So let's carry on.
Dealing with a problem that was a byproduct of the Khmelnytsky massacres. What happened was when the Jews were massacred like that, people were speaking again about redemption. We were looking around for redemption. And all of a sudden, a man by the name of Shabbatai Tzvi, who was born in 1626 and died in 1676, came along and said, I am the Messiah. And he had a...
Rich and evil and poor. That's it. And not all poor people are good.
Tremendous following. When it was realized that his following was so great and there would be problems, the Sultan, because Shabtai Tzvi was from Izmir, came along and gave Shabtai a choice. Either you die or convert to Islam. So he converted. Now, there were about 1 million followers prior to the conversion. When the conversion happened, then there was disillusionment among the Jews. But there were some diehard people who set up different cults of Shabtai Tzvi. And the worst one of them was called the Domeh, which was a secret organization. And the Domeh was based in Turkey and in Salonika, and the Domeh gave rise to these terrible orgies that went on, which became part of the immorality theology of Shabtai Tzvi, corrupted later on. He apostatized himself 10 years before his death. So when he died in 1676, he had these cults doing all kinds of evil.
And the reason that these followers of Shabtai Tzvi were doing evil was because what?
Here's the thing. The Talmud says that the Messiah would come when everybody's good or everybody's bad. There is such a saying in the Talmud. So the Sabbatians said like this: it's impossible for everybody to be good. It's easy to be bad. So they turned around the Torah and they said, if you do an evil deed, then you will use up the energy of the universe, and it'll collapse, and you'll force the Messiah to come because you will have used up all the evil in the world. So whenever they engage in an orgy, they would make a bracha, and every day they would figure out a way to do as many sins as possible. Like if you eat chaylev, you're chayav karet. In other words, if you eat fat, according to the Torah, you're to be excommunicated from your people. So they would eat fat that was prohibited, non-kosher fat, from a kosher animal, which is chaylev, which is in that category, like eating blood from a kosher animal.
So they would do the opposite.
They do the opposite
in order to hasten the
coming of the Messiah,
which is totally ludicrous. These sound like people who were today fodder for all these Davidian, David Koresh cults and all the strangest cults you can find today. Would they be the same type of people?
Yeah, same type of people, exactly.
Oh, so now they're gonna shove Waco into there. Waco was some crazy cult. What'd she call it? She just said cult, but she just shoved him in there. Was the Branch Davidians a bunch of rich guys? Notice how she just kind of jams that in like it ain't nothing. They're poor people out on a farm. Now they're doing some shady shit, of course, but they ain't. They weren't running the world, man. So that's just kooky and wacky right there.
As a matter of fact, what happened was then after that, after Shabtai Tzvi died, one of the most powerful Sabbatian cults, as they were called, was a transformation of the Domeh, the most extreme cult, to Europe through an insidious person by the name of Jacob Frank. He died in 1791. Now, the Frankists started to spread and take over entire communities and make them satanic. Matter of fact, no less a personality than the Nobel Prize winner Isaac Bashevis Singer describes how a community was corrupted in his Satan and Garay, which is based on very well documented history. So one of the sources that I use is the late Professor Gershom Shalom, who wrote a lot about Shabtai Tzvi. Shabtai Tzvi, The Mystical Messiah, is a very, very thick book in Hebrew and in English. It goes through a lot of things. So to say that he was involved in conspiracy theories is ludicrous, because he has documented studies. There are other professors also, to Gershom Shalom, that were involved with their students at the Hebrew University and still continuing the Sabbatian studies, as they're called, because of the influence of this insidious group. And you can actually trace a line historically, which I do in my book, to the CFR from Shabtai Tzvi, and another organization called the Illuminati, which was founded in 1776 by Adam Weishaupt. And they were involved also in the French Revolution, which is also well documented.
So what you're saying is that there really does exist a New World Order, that it's not a conspiracy theory, it's a conspiracy. And you're a scientist, so you only deal with facts. You don't like to go on hearsay or on jumping to conclusions. Only fact. You've done research and you come to the conclusion.
Now there is Revelation 2:9. In a nutshell, the rise of phony Judaisms, where did all the isms come from? The Jude.
You don't have to come to the conclusion. It's right there in front of you. You've gathered the facts to show that these are conspiracies that are going.
Oh, what's that? The N word right there. Ooh.
In the world, there is indeed people working in a new world order to try to make this, to try to take over the world power. That's what you're saying,
right? And there's so many books on the side of the Jewish philosopher that it'd be very ludicrous to compare it, let's say, to the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which is fiction. So. Some of the professors at the time of Gershom Shalom was
going to mention is fiction. Every piece of fiction has reality in it. Okay, you just don't say fiction and chuck it in the garbage. Star Wars has lessons and tells a story which is relevant to everyday life. Just because we don't have spaceships flying around doesn't mean that is definitely not true.
Jacob Katz, Professor Katz, wrote a book called The Jews and Freemasonry, which gives a history of the interface between Jews and some of the cults that derived out of Shabtai Tzvi. But the next big cult that came from Shabtai Tzvi after the Domeh organization, which is in Turkey, the next big cult were the Frankists, as I mentioned with Jacob Frank. So Jacob Frank, the Vad Arba Ratzat, the Council for Lands, wanted to deal with Frank, and they decided to have a big excommunication on the 20th of Sivan 250 years ago. And there, they made the following rulings. They said everybody that is a Frankist is to be excommunicated.
From the Jewish people.
From the Jewish people.
Okay. You said every Frankist is going to be excommunicated from the Jewish people. That's fine. Let's read this. Let's read this remark here. Contrary to popular opinion, Karl Marx did not originate the Communist Manifesto. What? He was paid for his services by the League of the Just. Now, what's the first two letters in that? Where did justice come from? The word justice. Huh. Okay. So the League of the Just, which was known in its country of origin, Germany, as the Bundesgerten. The Bund, which existed as a secret society, was later to become known as the International Communist Party. Wait a minute, man. Wait a minute. Well, okay, it was 1844. All right. It wasn't 1944. So the Germans, because they were infiltrated by the communists, 100 years later became the SS. The actual origin of this Bund seems to be lost in obscurity. No, but it is believed by many political scientists who have been influenced largely
bastards to the 10th generation
by another secret organization, the Illuminati, the brainchild of a Bavarian intellectual named Eisen Weishaupt, who is believed to have been an ex-Jesuit. Another J word that has a U in it. Just and a Jesuit. If you put a little accent on it, they sound very familiar.
That's what it said. And they prohibited people, because the Frankists were into Kabbalah, they prohibited the study of Kabbalah until you were 30 or 40 years old and you had a belly full, as they said, full of Talmud. Only then could you study the Kabbalah.
Right.
And they said they're women or whores. And they're hereby excommunicated from our people to the 10th generation.
This is what the Council of Four-Lands labeled the Frankists, right, because they so deviated from Judaism and all that Judaism holds to be true and righteous. These people went off and made basically their own deformed religion, and so the Jews wanted nothing to do with it.
Okay, so you just said they were excommunicated from the Jewish teachings for 10 generations. Now, in the Bible, when you talk about generations, it's 100 years. In human life, when you talk about generations, it's 25 years. Really, could be 30, but somewhere between 20 and 30, they usually estimate 25 as a generation. Even though in the early 1900s, the average generation would be 75 years, or you would have 3 generations living at once. That changes, so I'm not sure how they label a generation, but it started just after 1776. That is a weird date, isn't it? The Illuminati was founded May 1st, 1776? And it is for this reason that many scholars believe May Day has achieved prominent status in Marxist-Leninist organizations and other socialist, communist coalition groups throughout the world. May Day. Danger. When Weishaupt first conceived a new social order in the world, he was guided by the model of the Republic of Plato. Ooh, we have some Platoisms. Let's carry on.
And they kicked them out.
That is correct.
Okay.
Now, studying the Frankist family trees, there was a family called the Bruschka, which is like first cousin of Jacob Frank. And Gershom Scholem spent 6 months in Paris at the National Library to ferret out things about the French Revolution in connection with the Sabatians. So you can't dispute this material. There's a direct line with the Jacobin Society.
So the Jacobins came from the Frankists, all parts of the Sabatians, around the same time, 1770 to 1780. Now, 10 generations from there equals what? If it's 25 years as a generation, that means it's 250 years from 1776. What anniversary is next 4th of July for the US of A? 10 generations. Let's see if we can find anything that mentions what a generation is, because it's very interesting that they're going to start or try, these Frankists, if they still exist, to start World War III, 4th of July, 2026.
And with the Illuminati, and Gershon Sholem writes concerning Dobrushka, he may have been, he said he was a member of the Illuminati, but he was devoted to Sabbateanism.
Are there non-Jews that joined this Sabbatian cult?
No, non-Jews did not join the Sabbatian cult, but the non-Jews did join the Illuminati. And
they worked together, and you're saying that these two cults or organizations or whatever had planned and staged the French Revolution?
Yes. They were involved in it, and Gershon Sholem proves it with the personality of Dobrushka, who was taken and he was beheaded on the guillotine because of his involvement.
Wasn't the French Revolution ultimately, I mean, forget about the beheadings because that was horrible, but wasn't it ultimately good? I mean, democracy came from that. You got rid of this, spoiled upper royal class, and the people took over. Wasn't that a positive?
Oh, God, she's still trying to blame things on the poor. Because this is a Jewish radio show from 2006. George Bush was the president doing the bidding of Israel. So she is propagandist. Is doing Jewish radio every day and invites this guy in, and he's telling her, listen, lady, everything you're mentioning to me right now is not real. Let's read this before we get back into it. Hans Heinrich von Eckelfin had been a... Holy God, he's got a lot of names. Had been a leader of the Golden and Rosy Cross. The Gold und Rosenkreuz, founded in 1747 or 1757 in Berlin as a revival of the 17th century. Now, there's certain things you have to know about dates because at one point in time, I think as well, George Washington was alive, but before America started in 1776, they had to realign the calendar to the sun because the Roman Catholic Church found that the dates weren't lining up exactly as the Earth spins, so they had to change dates by a specific amount. I'm not sure. I know it was changed, but I'm not sure. I believe it was like 18 days were taken off the calendar while George Washington was alive. Okay. Look, the Rosicrucians have showed up in 1710, and which maintained ties with Baron Hund's strict observance. It was partly as a reaction against the mystical and alchemical orientation of the Golden and Rosy Cross that Weishaupt had the idea of founding the Illuminati. 1747. Okay.
There were positive and good things about it. The question is, let's start assessing it from a spiritual side. After the French Revolution, there was a descendancy of the reform and conservative movements. Interestingly enough, you start studying who the leaders were of the conservative reform, you'll find a direct line to the Sabbatian families in Europe of the Frankists.
So they infiltrated back into Judaism and made these cut-off religions. They formed conservative and reformed Jewry.
Right.
Okay, because before that, there was only Torah-observant Jews. You were a Jew, period.
Right, and there was solidarity among all the Jews. After Shabtai Tzvi, you couldn't trust anybody anymore.
Mm-hmm. Where is Shabtai Tzvi buried, by the way?
He's buried in Albania.
Do people go and visit his grave? And
I understand they do. It's a Sufi shrine.
It's a Sufi shrine, which is Islam.
Sufi is a Gnostic movement in Islam, which seemed to have been a tremendous influence on the Sabbatian movement. And the Sufi go all the way back in history, prior to even Islam. And this business about virgins being a gift if you kill for Allah came from a particular Sufi cult, which were also Illuminati. According to one of the experts,
I think he lost his place
Spence, who wrote
Islam.
an encyclopedia on the occult, claimed.
Okay, so this guy hadn't caught up and learned a lot about Islam, but what the Frankists did was they infiltrated every religion. The one that he studied was as they went to the West, and he kind of ignores how they spread to the East. So they infiltrated Islam and the Roman Catholic Church, but his specialty is on how they moved from Poland and the Turkish area westward. So
claims that.
So basically, this guy doesn't know. She's asking him a question about how they infiltrated Islam, and that's not his specialty.
One of the Sufi cults were the assassins. Why are they called the assassins from Hashish? The people that have Hashish, and Hassan ibn Saba, the old man of the mountain, had a bunch of people that would assassinate people, and because they had Hashish all the time, they were called assassins. So he equates the Illuminati with this movement. The old Illuminati prior to the 1776 organization of Illuminati. Now Hassan ibn Sabah, being the old man of the mountain as he was called, had a tremendous amount of influence in Islam, and that entire Sufi cult. The interesting thing is that he set up these places where they smoke hashashin, were luscious grounds, beautiful, luxurious places with lots of grass and flowers and fruits, and virgins. So this business about the virgin.
Okay, so we got this letter here on the 200th anniversary of the Illuminati to the Supreme Rabbinic Court of America that had been around for 3 years. From the Court of the Orthodox Jews in Los Angeles, California. I bet you that's Hollywood.
And the reward was done there by Hassan ibn Sabah.
That's where they get their idea of heaven from.
Right.
Huh.
That's where that came from.
Interesting.
You know. But this is all in Spence's Encyclopedia of the Occult. He himself, Spence, the author, was a Rosicrucian. That's another Sufi group. I don't want to go into the Rosicrucians. So that's where that came from.
So you're saying that there are all these different organizations. One is the Sabbatian cult, which are Jews that were kicked out of Judaism. There's the Illuminati, which were not Jews. They were Gentiles who had their own little secret.
Okay, so let's read this letter. Well, she rambles on, not knowing what the heck she's talking about. Dear rabbis, in answer to your letter of March 17th, 1976, with regard to the attack by Rabbi Mordecai Savitsky on Rabbi Marvin S. Antelman. So, of course, a left-wing rabbi and a right-wing rabbi are attacking each other. They're attacking this guy who's talking on his book that we showed the cover of. I'm really bewildered to read the strong accusations against this guy who wrote the book. It is true that the Andin-Eibeschutz conflict, which took place over 200 years ago, with the accusations and counter-accusations involving the giants of Torah of that generation, was a great wound on the body of Torah Judaism, and it is therefore very unpleasant, to say the least, to open that wound now. What the heck is he going back in history and ripping open the wounds of the Jews? I don't understand what that has to do with today in Hollywood. However, to say that the party who took Endin's side is bound to apologize to Rabbi Eibeschutz by going to his grave is certainly out of place. Such an act would mean that Rabbi Antelman agrees with Rabbi Eibeschutz. By this, he would confirm the accusations of Rabbi Eibeschutz on Rabbi Endin, namely that the latter made such false accusations for self-interest. It would also mean that he accepts the accusations and the insults of Rabbi Abachutz on the Pini Yehoshua accusations that I do not dare to put on paper. What have you done to your penis? You did not have it as Yeshua? To support such accusations on the Yavidi and on the Pini are just as besmirching to Gadolama Torah as Rabbi Antman is accused of. Oh boy, what the heck? We need a Jew to interpret this crap.
Thing. You've got today's Skull and Bones Society that we heard about with Yale University and President Bush and many many famous politicians today.
Professor Anthony Sutton wrote about that in depth too. He was the one that I just quoted earlier as being the author of Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution and Wall Street and the Rise of Hitler. So Anthony Sutton has written about that. He has a separate book out on that. Now I can tell you that in my 2-volume.
Okay, let's read the last paragraph. They say he's being accused of Yipini Yehoshua. Rabbi Antman based his accusations on the writing of Professor Gershom Shalom, an authority on Kabbalah history. Professor Shalom based his writing on newly discovered documents. What newly discovered documents are we talking about here? Also, Rabbi David Kahane, a reliable historian of the 19th century, reliable why? Who made a thorough research on the subject, came to the same conclusions by supporting the Yavitz Pina Yeshua. Yes, Turapini. Both these historians came to the conclusion that Rabbi Enden, the Pina Yeshua, and the Maharam Shegriz were right. Whilst I certainly do not wish to put a stamp of approval on either side of this tragic controversy, I cannot see, however, how Rabbi Savitsky feels that he has the authority to demand that Rabbi Entelman should publicly declare that Rabbi Ebenschitz was right, and all the Gedolim accused Rabbi Ebenschitz were liars and cheats, those rotten oy vey bastards. So we say some of the rabbis are strict priests of the rabbis and others of the Kabbalah, maybe the ones sitting in Hollywood, are doing dirty, evil works. The Pina Yeshua, he's sucking the Pina Yeshua. Oh no, he must be a liar.
I start showing straight lines from the Illuminati and the Frankists, the Haskalah movement, the Jacobin Society, the Reform movement, and different years that initiatives had. The Illuminati were involved to destroy the Bible and the biblical authority and to help promote biblical...
Okay, let's finish this off. I have great respect for Rabbi Savitsky as a Torah authority, and neither do I minimize his great Talmudic works. Rabbi Savitsky will admit, however, that his Talmudic works are for the benefit of Torah students only, not the Goy, only the Torah students. Rabbi Entelman's work, you do not give the books to the Goy, okay? You stick to the students of the Torah, for they are non-sexual. Rabbi Entelman's work is enlightening the Jewish reader in the danger of reform, conservative, and Jewish communists. Okay, now, how do we mash these three words together? Reform sounds like a British party coming up right now. Conservative sounds like a Canadian party who says, I'm just a simple guy. And Jewish communists, huh? These things shouldn't fit together. Yet, ba-bam, there it is right in front of your face. The Reform and Conservative movements are the growing cancer on the Jewish body. We do not like the right wing. We are into the left wing here in Hollywood. That's why we are the communists over here in Hollywood. As I see it, there are thousands of Jewish men and women in other countries who follow the reform or conservative movements, not knowing how non-Jewish and anti-Jewish these movements are. The right wing is for Hitler. Not us communists, you do not understand. Oy vey, we are left-wing Jews over here in California. And we do not like you that you take this book, you besmirch us, and shove us all in one category. Okay. I've expressed on many occasions, orally and in writing, that I regret very much the fact that the great Rosh Yehovah failed to concentrate to organize campaigns to enlighten the Jewish masses to the danger of reform movements. You Jews must not become right-wing, otherwise we go back to Hitler. But the Rabbi Antelman, therefore, really deserves praise from every serious-minded Orthodox Jew. I am anxiously awaiting the edition of his second book on this subject, which I hope will bring back many Jews to the true Torah Judaism of the left wing. Rabbi Chaim Eitner. Oy vey. So this guy got chastised for giving a book to the goy. Basically, letting him in on what the heck is going on with the Jew business. You do not let the goy know the Jew business. The Jew business is for the Jew to fight about. If a left-wing Jew wants to fight a right-wing Jew, you let him fight. You do not tell the goy. Okay? Bzz.
Criticism in the university level.
You know, let me stop you here because we have to take a break for the news, and then you can go over and explain this all to us, how everything adds up today and where we are today in world politics and policies and agendas and who's running things. We're speaking with Dr. Rabbi Marvin Antelman, author of the book, the famous book, classic books, I should say, To Eliminate the Opiate 1
okay,
and 2.
Let's skip ahead here a bit.
All right, we have right here in the studio with us none other than Rabbi Marvin Antelman, author of the classic books To Eliminate the Opiate, Volumes 1 and 2. Religion is the opiate of the masses, so said
48-43. So that is not something we'd recognize. We'd look at that 4 there and go, what? But this is in Judenfrage. The Judenfrage. The Jews in Zurich. And if you've ever been to Zurich, you'll know it's the most expensive place in the world. $4,000 a night for a hotel room. Why? They get it from these people. They are very rich Jews. They are Frankists. This is where they have the parties. I gotta stop doing that accent or I'm gonna turn it. Oh, God. Anyway, this is where they have those secret society special events. You know what I'm talking about. And that's why it is the most expensive city in the world.
Karl Marx, and Rabbi Marvin Antelman is here to tell us more about how there are conspiracies going on, running the world. These are not theories. He's a scientist. He only deals with facts. If anybody would like to know more about it, you should get his books. You can do that by going to Billy Jack Dial's website, which is...
Okay, so this is his second volume book that talks about Rosa the Red Cohen. Cohen is a Jewish mobster. Yitzhak Rabin's mother, a Soviet official under Lenin, who moved and became a mobster in America. The rabbinic court accounts of wife swapping in Poland. Oh boy. Who's from Poland? Who's the president of Israel right now? I wonder where he came from. He's a Sabbatean Frankist Red Kabbalah excommunicated. I bet you I know his last name. I bet you I know these may be his ancestors. The Sabbatean ritual that conceived Adolf Hitler? Huh? They did a ritual to conceive Adolf Hitler? who may be related to Cohen? Yitzhak Rabin. What is going on here? Oy vey.
www.b'nai-noach.com, and I'll try to post that again on the website. You can order the books there. As well, you can call in. Our phone number is 1-800-270-4288. That's a toll-free.
So on the fast day for the destruction of the first and second temples, July 20th, 1888, everyone knows July 20th, or the 24th of Siva, which is the day they're doing this interview, in fact, of 1888, Hitler was born exactly 9 months later, April 20th, 1889. So he was conceived at a wife-swapping in Poland cult, where the women are whores and the children are bastards to the 10th generation. 7 to 20, 17. Didn't you say that? 7 to 24th. Huh. And the Jews have this as a holiday, which they have suppressed? We must investigate this.
Phone call from USA, Canada, and Israel, 1-800-270-4288. So, Rabbi Anselman, what you're saying is that a lot of this started with a cult of people who thought that Shabtai Tzvi, who lived in the 16th century? Or the 17th century?
1626, 1676.
Okay, he claimed that he was the Messiah. In the end, he got so many followers that he was a threat to the kingdom, so the Sultan said either convert or die. He was jailed. He was put in prison. He chose to convert to Islam, lost a lot of followers, but there's still some hardcore members, and they took what he was teaching and they perverted it even more, and they decided that in order to bring the Messiah, we have to have everybody sin. So the world gets to such a low level, God has to come in and save us. That's basically what their philosophy was?
Yes, but they also considered Shabtai Tzvi to be God.
To be God?
Yes.
Okay, we're really dealing with sickos. So this council of the four lands, these rabbis, said anybody who has anything to do with Shabtai Tzvi, who believes, who is a Sabbatian or Sabbatian, who is a Frankist when that came later, these people are excommunicated from Judaism. They have nothing to do with us. We do not believe in this stuff, and it's not Jewish, and they've chose to give up their Jewishness.
I want to mention that
Okay, so let's back up a minute here and read all that just went by. Then we'll come ahead. Accordingly, his real father was not Alois Schickengruber, and his Sabbatian roots are also maternal, stemming from Strone's family. Two people named Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer? Hollywood? Professor Joseph Mayer? Catholic? What? Oh, you remember I said they converted? Oh, boy. These Frankists all converted to whichever religion would accept them, and then took over as the Smarterses. And Professor Joseph Mayer, Catholic theologian, infiltrates the Catholic Church, inventor of the gas chambers and crematoria. This is a Jewish man who invented the gas chambers. And Salima, born a Jew, whose hatred for Jews led him together. A Jew? Born a Jew? Hatred for Jews? Well, this sounds a lot like, oh, boy. Somebody alive today who is a Jew. Throw the Jews into the thing. Oh, it could be, oh, man, what the heck is his name? Soros. Is this a Soros? Anyway, he led them together with a Shomer. Hetzai Communist College, Nathan Schwab. Communism. Who gives money to communism and is Jewish? Who hates the Jewish? Soros. Left-wing Jews really hate the right-wing Jews, and vice versa. They are crazy people. To abort a rescue mission to save 120,000 Jews from extermination by the Nazis. Wait a minute, it's not the Nazis. The people who invented the gas chambers, the Jewish. Mer, another Jew who hated the Jews. Now they blame the Nazis. Dirty Secrets of the Conservative Movement. Zachariah Frankel, a Sabbatean Frankist, so he actually named himself after Zurich and Frank, who founded it in 1845. Next. Adolf Jelinek. That sounds very familiar. Revolutionary communist, Sabbatean Frankist, who's Shlomo Solomon Schechter's rabbi. His colleagues of the Bet Midrash of Vienna and their conspiracies with the anti-Semitic Party of Australia, Hitler mentors. Why are all these Jewish rabbis helping Mr. Hitler? Stalin's anti-Semitism, his pact with Hitler in 1939, and how it drove Jewish-born communists up the wall. Oh, so we have the left-wing Jews against the right-wing Jews. Didn't I mention this earlier? Oh, still going on today. Even 1976 in that letter.
And save us. That's basically what their philosophy.
Okay, let's carry on to the end. His hit team in New York, which used the communist Yiddish paper, Freiheit. What? Viva the Frei? David Freiheit? His hit team in New York, which used the communist Yiddish paper Freiheit as a front, and how they planned the assassination of Trotsky, a Canadian. Viva Freiheit, a Canadian. Communist Yiddish paper? What the heck is going on here? His team of assassins in New York, which used the communist Yiddish paper Freiheit as a front, and how they planned the assassination of Trotsky, who was Jewish, who was in Canada and Russia to help Mr. Stalin and his anti-Semitism. It was paid by Jews to kill Jews. What it is it's the rich Jews are paying other people to kill the poor Jews. You understand? This is the point where he's getting at. It's crazy. So if you just blame the Jews, it's not that simple. However, they are all involved. As long as one side and the other side are fighting, you could take that kind of situation and say, this whole situation is all Jewish based. Yes. But they are different teams. It's like saying all the NFL guys get along, but when the game starts, it's go time. So what else we got here? There was a connection between Edwin Canham, World Peace Foundation, Elma Lewis, Farrakhan, CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, Elgar Hiss, the Japanese Red Army, and the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation. Oh my God. So we got Louis Farrakhan, the Red Army of Communists, the Council on Foreign Relations, and the Palestinian Liberation, and World Peace. We're all connected. Wait a minute. How is that possible? Anyway, Council on Foreign Relations backed Hitler and promotes Hezbollah and other terrorists. That is George Bush Sr.'s organization they created. So how could it back Hitler unless it means something other than the Council on Foreign Relations? Or it's older than that. Or it's Yale. Or it's Jews backing both sides of the World War. The left-wing Jews against the right-wing Jews. Aha! Now you understand. Yes, Jews were killed during World War II. Of course. But was it the rich ones? And the Sabadian ones? And the Frankists? Absolutely not. It was the poor ones. The Gorbachev Foundation of Russia, with the help of the pagan New Agers, plans to rid the world of 1/4 of its population in the 21st century, starting with religious fundamentalists. Gorbachev. That dude is long gone. So there could be some floating propaganda. This guy says he's interested in facts. We're not sure if he's on the right side or the left side. I'm sure he has some biases. He says he's central. I'm sure he has biases. But when you're mentioning Gorbachev wants to rid the world of 1/4 of its population, and the guy was like Ronald Reagan's best friend, that sounds fishy. Okay, so let's carry on.
Frank was causing all kinds of problems in Europe at the time. He died in 1791, and he made an offensive into Eastern Europe and what today is Moldavia or Bessarabia.
Moldavia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had his cult very, very strong there. And so he was operating from 1753 already with initiatives 3 years before they came out with the pronouncement against the Sabadian Frankists.
All right. And at the same time, there were other organizations of people getting together who were not Jewish, Gentiles, and the Illuminati, who had their own plans to try to get world dominion or at least as much power as they could. And today, everything seems to be coming together. You see different blocks being formed in the world. You've got the European Union. It looks like there could be now a North American Union tying Mexico, America, the USA, and Canada into one North American Union. It looks like there's going to be probably an African bloc, a Latin American bloc, a Asian bloc, and of course Shimon Peres back when he brought us Oslo was talking about a new Middle East, which would be a Middle Eastern bloc, and yet these people still exist today. You're saying from these. I'm just going to jump ahead just for a minute because I want to tie it in for today, so it's relevant. These groups of people who are still trying to make their one world agendas to gain power and strength and money and everything that they're vying for here. They are trying to do this so they can have power. Who are these people you're saying? It's the CFR. Are there any other groups just like Illuminati who are in Europe? Is there a European-based type of Council of Foreign Relations CFR think tanks that are guiding governments and infiltrating into different movements to steer people to go one way or another?
There's the Bilderberg Group in Europe. There are a lot of groups that run in tandem.
Are they Jewish, the Bilderbergs?
No, absolutely not. The thing is, though, the genius of the Arbor Ratzot, the Council for Lands, was to put a Gentile label on any Jew that started to get involved in these derivative organizations. So it's out of the fold completely.
So these people...
See, any Jew that gets involved in the conspiracies comes out of Judaism. The fact of the matter is that
Judaism, in other words, they've left all of our values.
As a matter of fact, it was even reiterated at the time of Trotsky. Trotsky was excommunicated as a Jew, and the followers of the Bolsheviks in in a tribunal separately meeting in the Ukraine at the time of the Bolshevik Revolution.
So are there still Sabatians today?
Yes. It's interesting that you should mention this, because after I wrote Volume 1 in 1974, and one history professor, which I bring down in my book, said as follows. He said that I took a quantum leap from Shabtai to communism without any basis in fact, and I posited the continued existence of Sabatians. And he was skeptical over my assertion that some groups continued to enforce their secrecy after over 300 years and considered the notion absurd. But now he's changed his tune, because there was one guy who was a member of the Domes secretly, whose name is Ilgaz Zorlu, who wrote a book that was published in 1999. It's called Yes, I Am a Salonican. And there was a feature story that appeared in Jerusalem Report in 1999.
Okay, so this guy disputed this guy's paper because he's claiming it's what they'll say is anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish. But that's not what it's about. Both sides are Jewish. The left-wing Jews and the right-wing Jews. You understand? And that's how they confuse the goy. By saying, if you blame the Jews, you are anti-Semitic. And actually, real Jews are dying. They sacrifice them all the time. And like I said, there is splinter groups, but what was discovered after this guy died was that the splinter groups are still Jews that convert to the other side. So some Jews go, Jews are all over the world. Everyone understands this. They're everywhere. They're all over the world. Some went west, some went east from the Middle East. But no matter where they went, they converted. So, if you don't think that there's Jewish people in China who believe in whatever the Chinese religion is, or tend to believe, doesn't matter. Or say they're Catholic, and that's what this guy is mentioning right now. She's saying, are they Jewish? And the question that she's asking is not, are they a Jewish person, but are they Jewish religiously? And he'll say, no. But they are. And this is where the confusion comes in. And this is why they confuse us. They do it purposely. And that's why some people just blame all the Jews no matter what. And like I said, part of the problem. So, this guy is from Turkey. And he is the son of Salonikium. And let's hear what he has to say about Ilgaz Zorlu. Ilgaz Zorlu. Does that sound Jewish? I don't think so. Yet.
On the book. Among the revelations was that no Sabatian, with the exception of Ilgaz Zorlu himself, will ever publicly admit to being one. After centuries of secrecy and denial, Zorlu is determined to break the silence, to put the issue on the public agenda, and to prove that the Sabatians are actually crypto-Jews and that their Muslim appearances are nothing more than a sham. Ilgaz is like...
Did he just say crypto-Jews? So you got this symbol down here that is at the bottom. It's a little SS one. Then we got the communists on the top right. Then we got the Star of Washington there, the top middle. And then we got some other ones, which I can't really tell what they are. And right in the middle, all tied together in a nice little bunch, is the Greater Israel Project. And look how it's even bigger than Benjamin Netanyahu's map of it, with a menorah in the middle. To eliminate the opiate. What do you think that means? Is it that they blow hashish in our eyes as assassins and blind us to the truth? with this guy in this towel, wrapped in this blanket. Didn't even look like a man there at the bottom. The Zionist Book Club of Jerusalem. The Zionist Book Club of Jerusalem. Huh. Okay.
A missionary, he wants to spread the work of Sabbatianism. Some scholars say the Sabbatians of Istanbul continued to practice many other of their own peculiar rituals. Sabbatian married couples gathered to eat spring's duly born lamb for the first time. After the meal, the lights go out and couples have sex without distinguishing between their partners. So he mentioned all this stuff, and he mentioned in his book that the Sabbatian cemetery, there's a tomb of a Supreme Court judge, for example, lies next to the ex-leader of the Communist Party. So once his book came out, people stopped saying those things about me. Because here's a member of the cult exposing it.
Do they have some type of special power that they're so successful that people in the...
Okay, let's read this. Let's see what he says. This is from Volume 2. At the height of its activities, Bruyera's KGB, Bruyera, I'm not sure who that is, directives were handled through Novitzky's and Manhattan-based agent, both red and now dead. Red and dead in America. So the KGB was Manhattan-based. Dr. Hyman Luma. Novitsky was special disinformation arm of the KGB. Sounds like somebody we know whose daughter works for NBC. It was once headed by Gorbachev. So Gorbachev and Reagan were good old buddies. Almost like they went golfing together, but were never caught. And the KGB was running out of New York, running disinfo. During the summer of 1982, right about the time Reagan got shot, where did he get shot? Reagan got shot. Was that in New York? By the KGB directives? During the summer of 1982, the new Novitzky Front organization substituting for Bruyera was called the New Jewish Agenda. So the KGB, had the KGB directives were handled through Novitzky, who had an organization called the New Novitzky Front organization, which were called the New Jewish Agenda. Jews are all over the world. On June 25th, 1982, Professor Howard Adelson? What? This sounds like somebody we know who backed Trump. Writing in the Jewish Press, cited an article entitled "The Same Hag Dressed in a New Veil," that the NJA was the same Bruyera hag in an NJA veil. He further went on to say that the same hag in a new rag was assuming the guise of being concerned about Jewish issues when it was in reality allied with Jew haters in the PLO in what he termed a monstrous conspiracy, whirling together with the Rockefellers, the oil interests, and the Arab states. Wow. That is ripping in. So if you're to think about it, Reagan was in. So these are the right-wing Jews of Manhattan calling... Wow. On June 25th, Professor Howard Adelson, writing in the Jewish Press, stated in an article entitled "The Same Hag in the New Rag," was assuming the guise of being concerned about Jewish issues. An Adelson was concerned about Jewish issues when it was in reality allied with Jew haters and the PLO. It was a monstrous conspiracy whirling together with the Rockefellers, the oil interests, and the Arab states. Wow, what's going on over there right now? So maybe by saying that the Adelsons are more loyal to Israel is not the point. They're more loyal. And Jew haters. And they just want to kill the left-wing Jews. Because they're right-wing Jews and they have fights. This is crazy. Alright.
These cults?
Well, it's no different than the power. Let's say you have a group of Freemasons who give each other business, or business people that join the Rotary or something.
So
like
it's just
that.
a clique.
It's a clique.
And because they help each other,
Right.
they're able to put themselves up higher and higher.
Yes, out of the Domet came no less a personality than Ataturk, who was the first leader of the new Turkey, secular government Turkey you have today.
Okay, let's read on now. NJA principals listed their names in full-page ads, such as that placed by the so-called Ad Hoc Committee for Palestinian Rights to condemn Israel and raise money for the PLO. So they were with the Yasser Arafat. The NJA was organized in 1980 and listed Nachum Goldman. That sounds very Jewish. Already excommunicated by the Supreme Rabbinic Court of America in 1975 for treasonous activities against the Jewish people. They're running both sides. They're running both sides. They're condemning the Palestinian Rights Committee, run by an Adelson, was condemning Israel and raising money for the PLO. And listed Nachum Goldman Rabbinic Court of America in 1975 for treason against the Jews. And the French radical socialist premier Pierre Mendès France, among its founders. The NJA, which also advocated the abomination of homosexuality, was formally excommunicated in November 1982. However, God had previously struck dead both Goldman on August 29th and Mendès France on October 18th, both in the same year. So these were very right. Were they right-wing Jews backing Palestinian? They're backing Palestinians and condemning Israel. But they were advocating against gays and were killed 2 months apart. Among the names that appeared in the forefront of the NJA as a signatory to pro-PLO ads in the papers was that of so-called Rabbi Everett Gendler, now excommunicated from Judaism. So all these rabbis who tried to make peace in Israel were excommunicated by Judaism. I doubt that. Gendler graduated the Jewish Theological Seminary of America, so this guy became a rabbi in America, advocated for peace in the Middle East, which to this day prominently displays a cornerstone with Jacob Schiff's name. Oh, Schiff. Shifty Schiff. This is crazy how these names just keep coming up. Adelson, Schiff. So this must be the left wing, or it's the right wing. Or Adelson is a left wing who switched sides when Trump, when this paper was written, was a Democrat and backed him on the right. He's not actually right. So the Jewish Theological Seminary of America, doesn't say where that is, which to this day prominently displays a cornerstone with Jacob Schiff's name in the courtyard, is a disciple of Louis Finkelstein, who in turn was a disciple of Solomon Schechter. Okay, let's carry on. And we'll get to the end of this when it shows up.
the switch from Istanbul to Anatolia. He was a member of the Domer historically.
All right, why don't we go to some callers? We have joining us now from the virtual studio, we have Esther from New York. Esther, what's your comment or question for us here at Israel National Radio? Do we have Esther from New York from the virtual studio?
Okay, let's pause and read the end of this paragraph for now. So, Jacob Schiff. What's his name? Adam? Shifty Schiff, anyway. Has his name on a Jewish theological seminary. He was a Jew, but kicked out. Why is he kicked out? Because he was promoting peace. So the Zionists have infiltrated? The Zionists from Zurich? This becomes more confusing every minute, doesn't it? How an Adelson and a Schiff can be on the same team, fighting for peace. This confuses the heck out of people if they were to read it. But anyway, he's a disciple of Louis Finkelstein, who in turn was a disciple of Solomon Schechter. These all rabbis? Not sure. And Schechter was a disciple of communist revolutionary Adolf Jelinek, who was a supporter of Karl Marx, communist. Adam Schiff, communist. Adelson, communist. Or centrist peace activist. Not sure. Anyway. He was a supporter of Karl Marx, inspired 1848 revolution on the barricades, was more fortunate than his brother Hermann, who was summarily executed by the Austrian government. Adolf Jelinek was positively documented by Gershom Scholem as a Frankist Sabbatean. So what they're saying is the Frankists are all in the power of both sides. Well, most disciples of Finkelstein were or are neither communists nor Sabbatians. The relationship is not coincidental, for the seminary is a hotbed today of the most heretical antinomian doctrines against the survival of Judaism, and is true to the ideals of Schechter and Jelinek. So, there is a Jewish seminary in America that is a hotbed 30 years ago of a heretical antinomian doctrines against Judaism. Is that Zionism? Probably. Let's hear what Esther the caller has to say.
I have a question for Dr. Antelman. I thought I understood him to say a few minutes ago that the Sabbateans were connected with the foundation of Reform and Conservative Judaism.
Okay, so she's saying, I thought he said that they were right-wing, but they appear to be left-wing in every other thing else. What's going on here? Let's read the last paragraph and then we'll carry on. It thus fulfills the life ambitions of Sabbatean Frankist, founder of the conservative movement, Zechariah Frankel, another Frank, and the Sabbatean Frankist conspirators of Vienna, who as true disciples of Jacob Frank worked indefatigably, never seen that word in my life, indefatigably, and industriously in founding, financing, and forging alliances with the National Socialist mentors of Adolf, Mr. Uncle Hitler, and their German-Austrian anti-Semitic parties. Among those enlisted by them for their dirty work was a certain M.L. Rodkinson. So what they're saying is, it appears that these Sabbatean Frankists have not only infiltrated new religions, moved in every single direction on the world from Israel, but they appear to be infiltrating the left wing and the right wing. And this lady asks, I thought you said they were left-wing communists. But in other writings you have, they're conservatives and right-wing, so it doesn't make any sense. If they were anti-Semitic, they would be, which one, left-wing or right-wing? But we come back to today and we think, who is against the Zionists? The Zionists are killing people all over the place. They're super rich. They don't care. They're going crazy. They're stacking bodies everywhere and smashing buildings. So the far left are against them. And the right, the not far right, but center right, are against them. But it appears all the rich are not against them, and that is the whole point. They have infiltrated the religions, they have infiltrated both parties. And the question in 2006 is, if they're communists, they're left-wing. So why are you saying that they're on the conservative side and the reform side? Well, I think he's going to answer with, they're on every side. They're embedded like wolf in sheep's clothing and the Mossad in everything. Do you understand? Let's see what he answers.
I would be interested in hearing a little bit more information about that or some clarification.
Okay,
Thanks.
I'd be happy to do that. My basis for this is, first of all, Gershon Sholom's writings. There's one particular article which was very, very popular called The Holiness of Sin, which appeared in Commentary, which is based on the idea of mitzvah haba ba'aveira, a mitzvah that's derived through a sin, like taking a stolen etrog and using it to make a bracha. The Gershon Sholom is the one that did the research, and he points out that the leaders of the Reform movement were from the big, basic Sabbatean families. In his book, The Messianic Idea in Judaism, for example, he has a chapter where he visits the Brandeis family, and Brandeis' family came from Sabbatians.
Visit Brandeis University.
That's right. Anyhow, Dembitz, which was also part of that family, was also a Sabbatian family, but Dembitz renounced their Sabbatianism in front of the Beit Din. In any event, he shows that the Wheeler family and other families were identical with those families that started the conservative reform movement. The reform movement was started in 1845 by Zachariah Frankel. And if you look at his family tree, you'll see that his family came from the Wheeler family, which was the Sabbatian Frankist family. I discuss these families in great detail in Eliminate the Opiate Volume 2.
Do you have footnotes in your book so people can...
Oh, yes. They can check it all out and trace it all. I have a chapter dealing with Solomon Schechter, which I call Solomon Sheker, because of the disinformation.
Sheker means lie in Hebrew.
Right. Where I go into great detail about what the conservative movement is all about, how they reject Torah min Shemayim, divine revelation of the Torah, and other things. Now today, the latest that I've heard on the subject is that the Jewish Theological Seminary of America is getting a new leader, and he wants to see a lot of the clergy in the conservative movement replaced by people who are lesbians and homosexuals.
Let me just jump in here for a minute. It seems to me that so you're basically saying that these families who were in this cult, these Sabbatians, have infiltrated into Judaism. They split Judaism. They made a Reform Judaism. They made another conservative Judaism to split the Jewish people. And I think that somebody was saying that now they've even infiltrated into Yeshiva University with what was, I just don't have the name at the top of my tongue. I'm sure David knows, but what's his name? From Yeshiva University, they just appointed him the head now? Do you know what I'm talking about? David, you can help me on this. Don't you remember we were talking about that? No one's helping me here? All right, when you remember, let me know. So basically, they're infiltrating, and let me just read something that you wrote in your book in the 70s here. You wrote here, and this is very, I can't believe you wrote this in the 70s, because we're only talking about this today, maybe the earliest in the 90s, about being politically correct. You wrote here, abortion has been converted from fetal murder to a right to choose. Homosexuality has been turned from a sexual perversion to a sexual preference. Assisted suicide from a felony has been changed to a right to determine one's future. Sexual restraint from an expression of human dignity has been turned into an anachronism. Basically, they were making all of these things that the world has held as immoral, making it acceptable. They were already turning people's minds and manipulating people to say that, no, these things are okay. It's not that you're a homosexual and you're doing an abominable act. It's just an alternate lifestyle, a different lifestyle choice. They're rewording things. They're putting cosmetics on all these things. And this is the way that they can get people to think and do what they want them to do. Let's go to another caller. We have joining us from Baltimore, we have William. William, welcome to the show.
Okay. I'm going to rewind that a bit. And we're going to read this letter. And then we'll go back to the next caller, who was at about 36 minutes. But we are first, maybe, how about we take a break? How about that? What can we do here? Let's possibly open up some music. How about that? What would we like to hear? I will look for the longest song in the world. So we can open this up here. And I will play Nope. Let's find the longest song that I know of. And we'll play it. We'll play the video. Yeah. Do. Hoo-ha. Have a little read and keep going. Nevertheless, there's a Gnostic Sufi chain in the 20th century beginning with exterminations but not necessarily burnings. Thus, during the months of June and July 1915, the Sultan of Turkey issued orders for the massacre of the Armenians. Whoa! The Sultan of Turkey? What's going on here? Right after the Sufi whirling dervishes danced in front of him. Those orders resulted in the mass murder of Christian Armenian men, women, and children. This was followed by the murder of approximately 5 million Russian dissidents under Lenin for the sake of the order of the revolution. Stalin exterminated the peasant class of kulaks, estimated to be about 4 million, helping to solve the problem of entrepreneur farmers and their threat to communism. Or they were just Frankists and wanted to kill people. So they infiltrate both sides, and the rich kill the poor off. This was part of a reign of terror called the Great Purge, or Yeshokovachina, which historians have estimated killed 8 to 10 million people. With such teachers as these and world apathy, Hitler realized he could get away with it. get away with it. Now, there are some rumblings that Adolf Hitler may have had some Jewish blood imparted to him by a Jew named Frankenberger. Oh my God, this gets deep in the weeds. Well, let's have a listen.
Divine revelation of the Torah and other things. Now today, the latest that I've heard on the subject is that the Jewish Theological Seminary of America is getting a new leader, and he wants to see a lot of the clergy in the conservative movement replaced by people who are lesbians and homosexuals.
Let me just jump in here for a minute. It seems to me that so you're basically saying that these families who were in this cult, these Sabbateans, have infiltrated into Judaism. They split Judaism. They made a Reform Judaism. They made another conservative Judaism to split the Jewish people. And I think that somebody was saying that now they've even infiltrated into Yeshiva University with what was, I just don't have the name at the top of my tongue. I'm sure David knows, but what's his name? From Yeshiva University, they just appointed him the head now? Do you know what I'm talking about? David, you can help me on this.
So they're changing the heads of university, killing tens of millions, infiltrating the left and right. He keeps saying it's infiltration. Maybe he didn't say that, but I've heard places that they just infiltrate wherever they can. Doesn't matter left, right, up, down, black, white, Catholic, Judaism, Protestantism. They infiltrate everywhere, and you hear rumors about that with the separate Protestant churches that are created in the United States of America. So, in this, she is claiming that the conservative movement, or the right wing, is going to promote the gays. And they already have names for it. In 2006, so this was before the crash of 2008. While George Bush was in office. So they figure since they've now destroyed Iraq and half of that, and that was, I'm not sure what religion they were, but they killed millions in Iraq. So they're just going around the world the whole 19th century just killing everybody. So they figure they'll start at the 20th century, the 20th century, they're killing everybody, tens of millions, and then start off the 21st century by doing the same damn thing. Okay. We got there. She's claiming they're conservatives. He's not claiming they're anybody in particular except Sabbatean Frankists. And now let's see what she says on this radio show in 2006, what they're going to do.
Don't you remember we were talking about that? No one's helping me here? All right, when you remember, let me know. So basically they're infiltrating, and let me just read something that you wrote in your book in the 70s here. You wrote here, and this is very, I can't believe you wrote this in the 70s, because we're only talking about this today, maybe the earliest in the 90s, about being politically correct. You wrote here, abortion has been converted from fetal murder to a right to choose. Homosexuality has been turned from a sexual perversion to a sexual preference. Assisted suicide from a felony has been changed to a right to determine one's future. Sexual restraint from an expression of human dignity has been turned into an anachronism. Basically, they were making all of these things that the world has held as immoral, making it acceptable. They're already turning people's minds and manipulating people to say that, no, these things are okay. It's not that you're a homosexual and you're doing an abominable act. It's just an alternate lifestyle, a different lifestyle choice. They're rewording things. They're putting cosmetics on all these things. And this is the way that they can get people to think and do what they want them to do. Let's go to another caller. We have joining us from Baltimore. We have William.
So he wrote this in the 1970s. About this was their plan. Now, how would this guy, who's just basically researching and happens to be Jewish, come up with these terms? 25, 35, 40 years before they're actually implemented. And we see everything she just mentioned coming to fruition. Remember how some people say that the government and the CIA and their technology is 40 years ahead of where society and the regular man is at? Boom. Nailed it. But they talk about technology. It's not technology. It's the transhumanism that they're trying to do. And let's carry on. I don't want to hear this. They're claiming Hitler has Jewish blood. Doesn't really make any sense because it's not the Jewish blood. It's the Sabbatean blood that's part of it. Anyway, why was it called the Third Reich? The Third Temple. They claim he had a Jewish name and a Jewish cousin, and Jewish this and Jewish that. A 1933 New York Times article dealing with Hitler's alleged Jewish origins maintained there was Jewish blood. So why did he want to kill Jews? Why does Soros a Jew who wants to kill Jews? Why is Lenin a Jew who wants to kill Jews? This is weird stuff, man. It's not that they're Jews wanting to kill Jews, it's they're Frankists, rich people wanting to kill the poor. So they're trying to increase the whole deal with the Frankens is that they want to create the most blistering of evil worlds to bring back the Mashiach. And that's what the rabbis are trying to do. But these rabbis, I'm not sure if they're fighting on how to do it or which road to take, but it appears that these claims of changing conservatives into taking on these transhumanist ideas didn't work. So since then, they switched to the left and walked them out under liberalism. Let's carry on.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tamar, and Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi. I had a two-part question. How can we see the influence of these groups of CFR and the others in the government and administration of Israel today? And two, we're talking about some very far-reaching and powerful people. What can the average person, religious Jew, Mikey's B'nai Noach, do in their individual lives about this without being in a position of power to make any kind of important decisions?
In our Shemona Esrei, every day we pray for the coming back and the redemption of the Geulah, the redemption. And if we believe this, especially if we can pick ourselves up and come to Israel and live, it will be the beginning of it, Chalta de Geulah, the beginning of the redemption, which I believe events that have unfolded in the last years seem to show that God has a moving finger. But if we start supporting those people that have other ideas that want to see Chas v'Shalom, the destruction of Geulah, and the redemption, then we're in trouble. So do your thing, be observant, and be knowledgeable, like you're listening to Arat Sheva.
Okay, so let's read this because this is very, very interesting here. At the end of World War II, a Nazi cache of Zyklon B for 20 million people was found being reserved for the extermination of non-Jews. They just happen to pick up on this and ride with it. Historian Max de Bon claimed Hitler planned to kill 10 million non-Germans annually. The nucleus of the New Age movement of today, by and large, subscribes to the concept of exterminating undesirable people. For example, Barbara Marx Hubbard, author of the Book of Co-Creation, states that 1/4 of humanity must be eliminated by the social body. Among her gurus are Shirley MacLaine and Rupert Sheldrake. Shirley MacLaine, Kabbalist Jew. With New Age charitable trusts such as the Youngwood Institute, one finds disgust of the Jewish and Christian groups that have to be exterminated. The next burnt offering being planned, religious Jews and so-called fundamental Christians are at the top of the list. So they're trying to kill religion, and by killing religion, they will bring back the Mashiach to welcome God back to earth or destroy it, and thus making every single soul in a higher spiritual plane. So that is their mission. Let's go on. Let's go on.
Which is very, very good. And as we all come together, Jews from all over the world, God will bring us to the ultimate redemption.
All right, so basically you're calling for Aliyah, strong call there for Aliyah. Let's go now to Washington, D.C. We have joining us Tom. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tamara. Thank you very much, Rabbi Dr. Marvin Antelman. What evidence do you have that many of the Jews, if any that is, that many of the Jews in the neoconservative movement here in the United States are false, disingenuous, or Sabbatean Jews, either knowingly or unknowingly, and that the neocons may have an entirely different agenda than most people would imagine?
Okay, let's read this paragraph here. I noticed a name in it. It was very interesting. Who happens to maybe have beliefs about these certain things. In order to effectuate these plans, a popular trust has been established called the Gorbachev Foundation, which is housed at the Presidio in San Francisco. Their activities attracted several people, such as Microsoft wizard Bill Gates, media mogul Rupert Murdoch, futurist Alvin Toffler, Senator George Mitchell, and the late Carl Sagan. At a convocation held in 1995, 30 years ago, the foundation set the year 2000 to target the priorities, values, and actions necessary to exterminate 1/4 of the world's population in the name of humanism, or transhumanism. Gorbachev declared that we have to gear consumption more to people's cultural and spiritual needs, and within the framework of the laws, we shall have to address the problem of controlling the world's population. The control as conceived by these people would be through the United Nations eventually becoming a global governmental power, or the New World Order, under the UN, to bring one people together to attack Israel and bring about the end of the world. Maybe they've reset the date to July 4th, 2026, 250th anniversary, 10 generations of Sabbatean Frankists. from the founding of America. 2000 didn't work out too well for them. How are you going to kill? The population in the year 1995 of the world is probably 6 billion, between 5 and 6 billion. So they wanted to kill 1/4 of them, which would be 1.5 billion in 5 years. That's a lot of work, man. But notice, they don't want the Africans. They don't want the Muslims. They want the poor Jews and the poor Christians.
I have not studied the neocons. I'm familiar with the neocons, and I have, at this particular point in time, I have nothing to say on the subject.
All right. Do people in the...
So we asked them about the neocons, and they're George Bush and his buddies there, with Dick Cheney. Asked them about what we should do about the neocons and if they're involved in this mission. Are the neocons involved in this mission? I have nothing to say on that matter. Okay.
Conservative movement know the roots of their beliefs that this is Sabadian? Are they secret Sabadians? And
no, when you talk about neocons, I saw the gentleman was talking about politically neocons, not the conservative movement of Solomon Schecker.
Okay, Solomon Schecker. All right, again, 1-800-270-4288. We only have about 8 minutes left of the show, so if you want to call in with a comment or question, if you want to talk to one of the smartest men in the world, you can do that right now, 1-800-270-4288. So we've covered basically the roots of these different organizations. You said, again, there's the Illuminati that was from Europe, and they were not Jewish. They've got this broken-off cult of people who left Judaism and became Sabadians, and that's what...
Okay, before it shifts back on this paper, let's read this. If one were to ask who is primarily responsible for the Shoah, the blame constantly shifts. Because they're on both sides. That's why it shifts. Everywhere else other than Nazi Germany. One example is the Poles. Oh. Who cooperated unstintingly with Hitler in contradistinction to the Danes, who protected every Jewish citizen from extermination. So Soros and maybe Milinkovic, or maybe Netanyahu, was on the other side of the Danes, who wanted to protect every Jewish citizen from extermination. Well, that's kind of weird. However, if one were to ask the rabbis, those who read the mind of God, who is responsible, it is us, the Jews, according to great rabbis, have warned as far back as the middle of the... back it up here.
Of these different organizations. You said, again, there's the Illuminati that was from Europe, and they were not Jewish. They've got this broken-off cult of people who left Judaism and became Sabadians.
Great rabbis who warned as far back as the middle of the 18th century that if the Sabadians were not stopped, there would be mass destruction of the Jewish people. Let's just keep the Christians out of this sentence. Rabbi Jacob Ebden, who wrote 14 books exposing the Sabadians from 1751 to 1768, repeats continuously, I have... Come on, man.
That was from Europe, and they were not Jewish. They've got this broken-off cult of people who left Judaism and became Sabadians, and that's what a lot of people talk about, today about the New World Order. You had something on one of your on one website where you were talking about the dollar bill and the symbols on the dollar bill of the Illuminati, who are not Jewish, the pyramid and the eye, all-seeing God. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, there's a fellow by the name of Spencer many years ago came out with a book called The Cult of the All-Seeing Eye. Interesting enough, the Illuminati had a symbol Illuminati, and that was an eye on top of a pyramid, which came from the Avodah Zarah, the paganism of ancient Egypt, like Horus, and we ourselves have Baal Peor. We're coming up soon with Parshat Balak about Bilam, who's referred to as Shtuma Ayin, which they say was blind, but Shtuma Ayin, in my opinion, was the cult master, the all-seeing eye in his day. So this is an ancient symbol that came and is associated with the Illuminati.
What's with the Jesuit priests or the Jesuits or something?
Here's what it is. Weishaupt himself was at Ingolstadt University, which was a Jesuit college. So the Illuminati, the Bavarian Illuminati, was founded in Ingolstadt, which was run and dominated by the Jesuits. Some people say that Weishaupt himself was a Jesuit, but apparently, it seems anything I could find that was substantive, that was substantive as far as documentation was concerned, shows that he was involved with the Jesuits, but he himself was not a Jesuit.
So we've got the Jesuits, we've got the Illuminati, we've got the Sabbateans. What about the...
So he says, there's nothing I could find that says he was a Jesuit. And she says, so we got the Jesuits. What the heck? Let's just lump them in there. Because he said that I can't find anything that relates them to each other. Other than the fact that he's a sabbatical. Yeah, whatever. Frankist. And he went to the Jesuit school. But there's nothing I could find that says that he converted to Jesuits. Even though everyone else did, and there's evidence of everyone else converting to wherever the heck they went. And she just mentions, so we got the Jesuits. Just said, oh God. These people, man.
The Pope, the Catholic Church, the Church of Rome?
They're still doing their old thing. But as far as the Illuminati itself were concerned, the anti-Semites have taken over the Illuminati as part of the Jewish conspiracy domination.
So she immediately comes out and says, we got the Jesuits, we got the Vatican. And he's like, whoa. They're doing their old thing from the 1500s. Don't worry about them. They haven't caught up to us yet. So she's just ramming everybody in there. You can't blame the Jews here in this Jewish radio show. And, okay.
And they're writing about the protocols, so they lump us all together. But some of them even say the Weishaupt was Jewish. Unfortunately, there's some people who take that stuff and they regurgitate it back to us and take it as a fact. Whatever Weishaupt was, he wasn't Jewish, but even if he were, he would have been automatically excommunicated by the Vada Barotzah. The genius of Vada Barotzah meant that any Jew or a person of Jewish origin, his Jewish origin was null and void. He was outside of the pale if he got involved with these things. Like we have in Sanhedrin, for example, in Perek Chelik, but these people do not have a share world to come, and they list. He doesn't believe that the Torah was revealed by God, etc. So we have our list of heresies that go all the way back, and the Vada Barotzah was only building on those heresies.
So the Council of Foreign Relations, which is a think tank, they basically come together. It's an invitation-only type of group. Nobody off the street can join them.
No, you're right. And if you want to read more about them, there are a lot of books out on the subject. But as far as authoritative books, I would say that the two professors that I mentioned, Quigley's books are available. Tragedy and Hope, and the Anglo-American Establishment. And Anthony Sutton's two books on the Bolshevik Revolution and the Rise of Hitler, and Wall Street and the Rise of Hitler, and Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution are there if anybody wants to do documentary studies.
So now the CFR is one think tank that you would say is trying to get world dominance. They want the world to go a certain way. They're helping to make these blocks. As I said in another show, they're helping to make this this North American Union by the year 2010. Who's involved today in the CFR?
What does she say here? He's saying you got to recognize it's not Jews or Catholics, or it's not a religion. It's good and bad people. And the bad people of oh my God. The bad people have infiltrated every section, so you can't blame a section or a non-section. They've infiltrated them all like a Trojan horse, and they hide. They hide in the gays and the genders and the trans and every single section you can talk about. Well, let's repeat what she has to say here.
Involved today in the CFR, this North American Union, by the year 2010, get world dominance. They want the world.
Studies.
So now the CFR is one think tank that you would say is trying to get world dominance. They want the world to go a certain way. They're helping to make these blocks. As I said in another show, they're helping to make this this North American Union by the year 2010. Who's involved today in the CFR that we need to worry about? Who is in the Jewish world and in the American world today that is infiltrating into politics in these countries and these nations who want to see these nations weakened and destroyed? Who do we have to worry about?
Well, there's a whole list of them. You have to get the list, which you can get on the internet. Do
we have to worry about Bush, Clinton?
Bush's father was a member of the CFR. Bush himself is not a member of the CFR. But just about the founder of the CFR was Colonel Edward House. And the CFR was
Colonel Edward House. Okay.
Incorporated in 1921, and he founded in Versailles in 1918, and there's a British counterpart. So in the Anglo-American establishment...
So the Treaty of Versailles was made by these people.
Which was written by Anthony Sutton. He goes to great lengths to show then that the Arabs are a favored party of the CFR.
Oh, did we hear that? The Arabs are the favorite party of the CFR. Why is that? Why do these rich Sabbatean Frankists, why are Arabs their favorite group? Why are they letting them into Europe and North America? Because they're their favorite group. Oh boy. Okay, let's carry on, and when this paragraph shows up, I'll read it.
And so we have to. How dangerous are they?
Very dangerous. They want nothing more than complete domination of the world and the restoration of Plato's Republic. They conceive of themselves as the priestly and the ruling class of Plato's Republic, and they want to bring this new world society.
Do they think that they're doing this altruistically, that they're really good, or do they know that they're evil and they just want to? They're just ambitious businessmen who want to. They don't care about anybody else. They just want to have riches and power, and that's it.
I don't believe it. They're monolithic. You have different person.
Okay. Do they believe they're doing it for the good of the world or the bad of the world? Killing tens of millions of people by any means necessary. Are they just evil or mentally challenged? Let's think about that for a minute. And I'll read this paragraph. The rise of socialism and communism from the Sabbatean Frankist roots was powered by disinformation. This word is showing up in a book in 1974. Wow. Who thought it was invented in 2019? Okay. Therefore, fighting back should be terribly simple, but yet so hard. That is, to destroy the disinformation. Over the years, the Supreme Rabbinic Court of America has unsuccessfully tried to place full-page ads in major newspapers. Most of the time, these ads have been refused, even though counsel indicated to us there was nothing illegal or wrong in what we were saying. We were just not politically correct in terms of CFR goals. So the Council on Foreign Relations is blocking the good rabbis from putting out information about what the heck is going on. We cannot let the guy know, you understand? So the good rabbis are trying to tell everybody, and the bad rabbis were stifling, just like they did and have done for 3,000 years. Okay. They were just not politically correct in terms of CFR goals. This is even true of a full-page ad that we tried to place in a Catholic publication when we wanted religious Christians not to get distorted view of what Judaism was about. So they're trying to save the good Judaism, especially in 1996, when it appeared to the public that Judaism supported same-sex marriages. What? In 1996, when it appeared to the public that Judaism supported same-sex marriages, the good rabbis were saying, no, this is the kooky, wacky, killer, sabbatic and Frankist rabbis who have infiltrated our society, and yet we can't get rid of them or do anything about them. Now, this is why some people just blanket over the whole Judaism. Because if the good rabbis can't beat the bad rabbis, then it's all their own fault. And if you tried to put it on the paper to save the guy, and they didn't let you do it, why didn't you just do it? Anyway, this chapter contains a collection of statements that deal with Judaism, which are powerful weapons in the hands of the dedicated. Because you could say anti-Semitic. You are invited to reproduce any parts of this chapter and disseminate them as widely as possible. Okay. So now the Jews have come out to say, it's not us Jews, it's them Jews. It's not the right-wing Jews. And the right-wing Jews will blame the left-wing Jews, and the left-wing Jews will blame the right-wing Jews. But really it's the rich Jews and the corrupted Jews who are blaming and killing. Because trust us, we're on the list too. We are the victims too, they say.
Nowadays, and they all have their own way of locking in. Some consider themselves satanic. There are other groups that interface with it, like the Bohemian Grove, which is pagan satanic.
So you're saying some of these people actually are what some people say, that they're in these devil cults, the Skull and Bones, and that...
Or they belong to the Sufi, and Hastings' Encyclopedia of Ethics and Religion goes into great detail into the Sufi and its satanic theology.
There's been some claims that some of these people in the CFR and in these, elite groups that practice devil worship, black magic, that they really are gaining dark powers, and that's why they are so successful. Would you agree with that, or you say it's hogwash?
I don't believe in dark powers. However, you have nothing less than the United Nations itself having a meditation room, which is Sufi and Avodah Zarah, pagan in every sense of the word.
In the UN?
At the United Nations, in the meditation room of the United Nations. As a matter of fact, Spencer's book, Code of the Old Sinai, discusses it.
I don't believe it. We got to the end of the show. It was fast, right? I want to thank you so much for being with us.
So let's wrap this up here. So, in the UN, there is an Arab and Sufi meditation pagan room that people in the CFR and the United Nations can go into to make secret plans about how they're going to kill 1/4 of the population of the world. They have a Sufi room. That is very interesting. Anyway, I'm going to do some more research. I think that's it for today. Let me see if we got any questions here. We got nothing. Okay, maybe people will join in next time if they see this. And we'll get in deeper into these isms. Alright. Everybody have a good day. See you later.